So these are a few photos I took on my first day in Fukuoka. I decided to come here to have a photography dedicated short trip all by myself, and that first afternoon was dedicated to capturing the streets with my 35mm lens, so I will bring you along and elaborate on some photos, talking about my thought process and why some of them worked and others didn't. So after devouring my first ramen of the stay, this first scene caught my eye for its clean, minimal aesthetic. The strong contrast between the deep shadows and bright highlights emphasized the geometry of the crosswalk and the buildings. I would have preferred it with maybe a man sharply dressed in a suit, but I had waited quite some time already and the light kept coming and going. I removed a few distractions with the eraser tool, but I believe it doesn't make for something unrealistic, and it helped to further simplify the frame and focus the attention on the interplay of light, shadow and the subject. What stood out to me here were the bold, sweeping lines of the parking structure. The curves create a strong sense of geometry, guiding the eye across the frame. I also love the little pops of red on the left, the parking sign, the cones and the strip pole, contrasting with the neutral tones of the building. The man walking across the frame adds just the right amount of life to balance the otherwise clean, structured scene. What I wanted to capture here was this woman's struggle of waiting for their food on a cold, windy day, but I wish the strong wind blowing at the time had come through more clearly in the frame. While the fallen banner hints at the conditions, the scene doesn't fully convey the movement and chill in the air. Still, I like the simplicity of the scene that has one clear subject or action, this everyday moment happening in the foreground. This is becoming a little ongoing photo project, capturing plants and other subjects through frosted or textured windows. I spotted one here in Fukuoka, and I love how this one turned out with its dreamy, abstract feel. I like the soft aqua tones, and the blur from the texture window make the image feel more like a painting than a photograph. I like having this kind of passive photo project that I can steadily advance while capturing photos like I would normally do. What intrigued me in this scene was the bold red accents on the left side of the frame. The curved entrance arch feels striking and contrasts nicely against the rectangular design of the surrounding structures. The person at the far end adds an intriguing focal point, giving the image a sense of scale and a touch of life. It seems that the color red was a recurring theme that day, and this scene fits right in. The bold red signage draws the eye immediately, complemented nicely by the soft orange tones of the building. I also love the addition of the small white truck on the left side. It helps balance the composition. Because of the strong red accents on the right, something was needed on the left side, and luckily the truck was white and nicely lit, helping to give it more visual value, so to speak. So, how do you like the music so far? Not bad, right? It's because it comes from Epidemic Sound, who are kindly sponsoring this video. Epidemic Sound is a platform I've been using for years to find high-quality, restriction-free music for my videos, music I genuinely enjoy. Their library is massive, with tracks across every genre you can imagine, making it super easy to find the perfect vibe for your project. One of their newest features is a game changer. You can share a link to a song you like, and Epidemic Sound will help you find similar tracks that fit your style. Another feature I'm excited about lets you customize any song by creating shorter cuts, looping sections, or even extending tracks to fit your video perfectly. And it's not just music, they've got thousands of Hollywood-grade sound effects to take your video production to the next level. Whether you're crafting a cinematic masterpiece or just making a quick vlog, Epidemic Sound has you covered, so check out the first link in the description to start your free trial. And now, let's get back to the video. This one has a certain charm to it, even with the motion blur that was not intentional, I'm not gonna lie. The low shutter speed softened the details just enough to give the photo a sense of energy and spontaneity. Again, we have some red all over the frame. It was a nice fleeting moment. While it wasn't technically perfect, the mood and colors make it work in its own unique way. Here, I tried capturing the contrast between tradition and modernity, a theme so often seen in urban Japan. The vibrant red shrine stands out against the concrete from the parking structure. I also like the staircase on the right side of the frame. It's a simple yet powerful composition, highlighting the coexistence of these two worlds. Next, I spotted not only one, but two retro-looking post boxes, and it made for a good opportunity for a graphic composition. Closing the aperture to increase the depth of field was key, ensuring clarity from the foreground to the background. The alignment of elements combined with the strong color contrast results in a clean and visually satisfying shot. When I was visiting this shrine, I saw these three kids having some sort of an adventure. What I found funny is that the youngest was the one leading the group. When I look at the final photo now, I can't help but think, what are these guys up to? This image really expresses a sense of playfulness and spontaneity. This scene really speaks to the innocence and wonder of childhood. This photo highlights how using a small aperture better captures both the details of the shrine and the bustling activity in the foreground. I used the APS-C crop mode to have a 15-meter field of view, and with the 1.5 time factor, the f2.8 aperture translates to a f4.2. This photo shot wide open wouldn't have as many layers and would lack some visual interest. Here, more depth of field works beautifully to tell a more complete story of this moment. This next photo is also not a technically correct one, but I think it works. My focus point got lost a little bit too far in the distance, making the subjects blurry, but it makes for an abstract and dynamic frame. We have the bold contrast between the bright red and the white on the shrine maiden. This photo also respects the rule of three, this composition principle saying that paradoxically a set of three creates more balance than when subjects come in a pair of two. I noticed this girl elegantly dressed in a kimono coming into the shrine. I tried getting a shot without getting noticed and breaking the moment. I like the light coming through the door frame from the right. The door also creates a frame within the frame where the subject is, adding one visual pattern that makes the photo more interesting and easier to read. This shot has a balanced composition, with the man on the right third and the flag adding a splash of color on the left. The light hitting the scene creates interesting contrasts. However, the absence of smoke, the detail that initially caught my attention, does leave the image feeling less dynamic than it could have been. It's a solid setup, but it seems like it's missing that one element to make it stand out. I had a chance to capture those very stylish police officers, but I missed my first shot. However, I was lucky enough to catch them again a few minutes later, and this time I managed to get a shot in focus, with a better lighting situation actually. I wish I had framed it slightly tighter, because I actually already cropped this one a decent amount, but street photography confidence is something easy to fade away when you don't do it every week, at least for me, and I didn't feel comfortable getting much closer. The Japanese uniform culture is fascinating to me, and it was my first time seeing an officer in this all leather attire. I love it. I love how the late afternoon highlights the texture of the buildings, especially the brownish facade, and how the shadows carve out geometric shapes on the street. I think that the distance to the subject gives this image a quiet, observational tone. I'm always fascinated by the hard work of street workers and construction builders. I like how I managed to frame the two workers in the center. The surrounding greenery adds a vibrant splash of color and naturally frames the subjects, giving the scene a nice balance between structure and nature, something recurring in Japanese cities. This area is a bit dead, and there is still like a winter Christmas illumination, which I'm not particularly fan of, so yeah, I don't know. Let's keep walking. This vibrant yellow Porsche was so randomly parked in the middle of the city in an area that didn't seem to be a designated parking space. I couldn't resist taking a photo of it. It's also echoing the previous photo with the guy wearing a yellow jacket. It's not a masterpiece, but it could work well in a set that focuses on the color yellow. For the next shot, I tried to capture a combination of complementary colors with the yellow-orange fabric paired against the blue elements, creating an interesting contrast. The addition of magenta in the foreground and the car in the background further enhanced the composition, adding depth and a playful touch of vibrancy. It's an abstract and graphic photo, focusing on shapes, texture, and colors rather than context or subject matter. I also had to use the crop mode on that one. 35mm would have added too much context and lost the abstract nature of this shot. This photo captures an interesting aspect of Japanese dining culture. It highlights the practicality and efficiency of space management in the countless small and narrow restaurants found across Japan. The scene shows a staff member navigating between the kitchen and the dining room using separate doors, a thoughtful design choice to avoid crowding dining space or disturbing customers. What stands out is the contrast between the two doors, one of which being very small. I was lucky to catch it while the staff opened the door, because with both doors closed, the viewer wouldn't have really understood the shot, I think. In the next scene, I aim to capture the elegance of this lady in a kimono walking down the street. To avoid drawing too much attention, I started composing and taking shots before she entered the frame and continued after she passed. She may have an idea of what I was doing, but perhaps she assumed that I was waiting for a clear shot of the street instead. I always like the interesting mix of traditional clothing and urban scenery. The greenery on the left also adds a natural, calming element to balance the composition. I was drawn to this scene because of the mix of different colors, the reds and yellows from the signage and crates, contrasted with the cooler tones in the bottom left. I waited patiently for someone in the shop to feel the right side of the frame. I was lucky to capture the moment with his dynamic expression and motion, which added life and a sense of spontaneity to the scene. The subject is also framed in a frame, making this photo pretty cool, I think. So with that, the video is ending here. Thanks a lot for watching. Looking forward to read your comments and see you soon. Bye.